Miss Kat, pwede mag-request?
Yes po.
It's Maria Cristina. Oo.
Yes.
Maria. Yung buo yung Maria.
Yes po.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, shall we start? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar called How to Do Everything Again Differently, Raising Your Child During Quarantine. This event is part of EpiMetrics initiative to provide support for different age groups during the quarantine. This was made possible with the support of SM Prime Holdings and the National Resilience Council. A gentle reminder to all our participants today, please remember to keep your microphones on mute. I'm your host for this morning. I'm Dr. Katrina Yang. I'm a general pediatrician and also I work at EpiMetrics as their innovations officer. Before we kick off our session this morning, let's have a few words from Ms. Antonia Yulo-Loyzaga, who is the president of the National Resilience Council, one of the key people who allowed us to make this initiative possible. Good morning, Ms. Tony.
Good morning, Dr. Kat, and good morning to everybody. Let me say it's been a privilege to be able to be part of this work, and I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Grace Magno of SM, and of course, Dr. John Wong and the whole team from EpiMetrics for bringing this to the attention of NRC almost simultaneously, I have to say. We had conversations in parallel, and it was a happy partnership that we were able to bring this together. And so I'd like to say thank you to both SM and to EpiMetrics to start off. The National Resilience Council has been really primarily concerned, certainly with the physical impacts of the biological hazard that is COVID-19. However, we are growing in our consciousness in terms of the intersections and the impact of the relationships within the physical consequences of COVID-19, child development, and mental health across all ages, because those particularly impact the way our children are going to be viewing their present and their future. So normal considerations in the development of a child in terms of their relationship with the physical and the social environment are really among the concerns that we have begun to realize should be at the top of mind and not just left behind as we cope with the physical impacts of COVID-19. So this is a rare opportunity for us to actually be able to discuss with experts and those that are experiencing these challenges, how we might be able to prepare our children for the present in terms of a hazard that they cannot see, they cannot feel, but may feel the impacts of in terms of loss, in terms of physical impact in the event that they may be in fact infected or actually have relatives and their immediate family separated from them. And so we're very grateful for this discussion, and we believe that this should be part of a continuing discussion in how to raise your child in a time of crisis that they cannot see and they may not be able to feel. And so I think the questions that we in particular are wanting to ask is, what does this mean for child development, psychological, physical? What does this mean for education of our children? And earlier in an early conversation with Dr. Cristina, we began to get a sense of what might be needed in order for us to prepare not just for the present, but for the future. What will the lack of socialization mean actually for our children in terms of the way they learn about their environment and their relationships with others? So in that light, I'd like to say that the National Resilience Council is very, very keen on sponsoring and continue to partner in these conversations. And we hope that there will be succeeding efforts. And we thank SM again in EpiMetrics. I'd like to also share with you that we have begun some very deep conversations with UNICEF, and in particular, looking at child rights at this time of crisis and the impact of COVID on the development of children, not just physically, but mentally and psychologically. And so we'd like to, at some point, bring that to the table as well when we talk about our future plans. Thank you very much again, Doc Kat, Ms. Grace, and to all the experts we have here today. SM and EpiMetrics, we hope this will be a continuing partnership moving forward. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Tony, for your words, really emphasizing the need for our topic today. So before we get started, also, let's introduce our distinguished panel today. We are very fortunate to have our guests, first of which is Miss Sari Bernardelli, who is a mother of two, an early childhood teaching expert, and the founder of Playscape Manila, a center for play-based learning. Hello, Sari. Second is Dr. Colleen Carlos-Viray, also a mother of two. She's a general pediatrician and a developmental and behavioral pediatrician affiliated with the Center of Developmental Pediatrics at the Medical City. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And our third panelist is Dr. Maria Cristina A. Robles, the principal of Navotas National High School and the 2016 Oscar M. Lopez Awardee for Educational Leadership. Good morning, Doctins. Thank you for joining us this morning. You're on mute po, Doctor. Okay. All right. So,
Good morning to everyone.
So that's our panel. For the next hour or so, we will be talking about fostering holistic development for our children under 10 years old, online schooling, and a little bit about caring for our children during this time of COVID. So we'll also have a short question and answer portion after our discussion. So please, during our session, at any time, send your questions in through the Facebook comments if you're on Facebook Live, and also through the Zoom Q&A box. We look forward to hearing your questions and answering them later on. So in the past couple of months, we've been talking to parents, guardians, and teachers who were sharing with us experiences of how challenging it's really been raising and guiding young children during this pandemic. We gather that one of the biggest challenges is really ensuring that children, especially toddlers, are able to maintain the social and sensorial experiences that they would normally get from school and playing with others. For those children attending school remotely, it's also been difficult. Aside from having the lack of resources or being productive in class, it's also hard for them really being away from friends and knowing how and when to take their breaks. On the side of teachers and guardians, they have needed to find new ways to create online class environments that are near reality, also trying to maintain the emotional and social well-being of the children. So holistic development really remains to be essential for our children as they grow up in these challenging times. With everything going on, we really need to be able to support children, not just academically, but also physically, emotionally, and through social domains. So let's get started. So I think the beginning of our discussion should really be what is holistic child development? What are these aspects and why is this important? So yeah.
Okay, so can I answer that? Okay, thank you, Kat. So when you talk about holistic development, you take into account the different domains or aspects in development. So namely your physical or motor domain, your language domain, cognitive domain, personal, social, emotional, and of course your spiritual and moral development. So I'd like to go through it one by one. So when you talk about the physical or motor domain, you take into account the child's fine and gross motor skills. So fine motor skills, yung gamit ng hands, so use of your small muscles of the hand. Your gross motor skills, yung arms and legs. Your sensory motor skills are also part of this. So sensory motor, it means taking in information from the world using our senses. So vision, hearing, touch, smell, taste, vestibular sense, yun yung balance and position in space, and your proprioception, your information from your muscles. So using our body to respond to all of these information, that sensory motor, it's actually the basic foundation for learning, especially for very young children. So I think teacher Sari will be talking about this a lot later. It's very important because it's how they learn, especially for younger kids. It's how kids learn. And it's a challenge now, diba, during the pandemic. So we get a lot of questions about this, how to keep kids active and moving, which is a very important aspect of development. And then we go to language, which you can break down into your receptive and expressive. So how the child understands and comprehends is your receptive, and how they communicate is your expressive language. Your cognitive domain is their intellect, their skills to problem solve, to concentrate, to memorize, to be flexible in their thinking. That's your cognitive domain. Tapos yung personal social skills. So personal social, how they take care of themselves. So their independence. Tawag namin self-help skills. So how they do things for themselves. Dressing up, eating, packing away, cleaning up, chores, and how they relate with other people. That's their social skills. So their relationships with other children, same age peers, how they communicate, collaborate, and how they do perspective taking, which is a very important skill in empathy and compassion in developing that. And then emotional wellness, it's understanding and managing or expressing your emotions. So self-awareness yan. And on a deeper level for older children, how to stay motivated and confident, especially in the face of difficulties. And then of course, the lasting spiritual or moral development of children. So making them realize that they are part of a bigger community. So when you talk about holistic development, you emphasize the importance of all these. So it's not just one over the other. One is not more important than the other. So they are multidimensional. Children are multidimensional. And if we encourage this and if we nurture holistic development in our children, I think it will pave the way for them to grow up to be responsible, creative, productive, and if I may add a very important trait, resilient adults. Because yun nga, resilience is very important now. Resilience is how you overcome adversity, and I think it's a very important trait to develop now. So when you talk about holistic development, I think you're on the way to develop these kinds of adults.
Thank you, Doc Coco. So that was a little bit it can be a little bit overwhelming, all these domains, but we have to remember that they're all connected. We hit one and we may hit others as well. And you mentioned that it's really a challenge hitting all these domains while we're at home, especially social interactions, things like that can be difficult. So for Doc Coco and Teacher Sari, maybe we can go through some suggested activities that can really help us, really help our children grow holistically, as we mentioned.
So Dr. Coco went through the basics and the essentials of holistic development. And the bigger question now is, how do we actually execute this at home with the juggling act of having to run your household? If you're a work from home mom and at the same time juggling grade school kids, we understand the pressure. And honestly, it's daunting. And the fact that we are faced with another year and the uncertainty of when it will end, it can get pretty discouraging. But as an educator and as well as a parent, I want to reassure everyone that more than ever, it's a back to basics kind of outlook, actually, for me. Yes, we don't have schools at the moment to send our kids to, but if you think about it in terms of having to offer opportunities of learning and play, it can definitely be achieved at home. So if there's anything that I learned as a parent with a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old, of course, with toddlers, medyo it's definitely a struggle to keep them occupied at home. In terms of productivity, I find myself jumping in and out bursts of productivity, mga 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then, somebody's having a meltdown, I have to cook lunch, etc., which I'm sure a lot of our moms can relate with. But I go back to having a routine and a structured schedule that helps execute our opportunities of holistic development. Why? Your schedule and your structure offers your child a predictable and secure environment. And that's something that actually all children and all adults need, right? So in our household, it's a team effort. It's a lot of trial and error in terms of getting the right schedule and right routine down. But after a lot of trial and error, and also after observing your child and also balancing the household juggle of everything, um, I then go back to having a space that responds to the needs of the whole family, especially my kids. So how does that work? As an educator, in the early childhood years, we emphasize having a yes space, or in other words, a learning environment that um, more or less sets the boundaries and at the same time sets the tone of what's required from kids. So we have a playroom. It doesn't require very big space. Condo lang kami, and very small space rin. Ang struggle namin is wala kaming outdoor play environment. So when we were under the ECQ, it was hard. The kids were bouncing off the walls, and we couldn't really get them out. There was no garden space, and although we do have a common area, we weren't allowed to go out. So what do? So with all the mommies who are here and are watching, syempre, we have to go back to what we know, and it's really offering play opportunities that your children are interested in. Sensory play, which Doc Colleen has mentioned, is something that children under 5 definitely are fully engaged with. The hard part with our young toddlers is they need to be doing things in practice. Definitely having online classes can be a way to reconnect children to educational spaces and to teachers and the structured routine. But of course, readiness is something that you have to consider. So really for me, it's having a schedule down, having a routine that works for your entire household. It's getting the entire household in on that routine as well, because it's not just the role of the mom. Okay, dapat si daddy involved rin. Okay, so for the mommies who are also there, it's not a juggling act for you alone, because it's the whole family who's going through this pandemic. So ultimately, having that routine, getting the entire household in on your routine, educated as well. So it's also empowering our caregivers about what kind of play opportunities they can offer your kids, because that's something that will help also in your child's play at home. So Doc Coco also mentioned a few areas. So some practical tips in trying to execute these play learning ideas might be for sensory learning. It's pretty basic. It's everything from maybe playing with water, which is so easy. Having different cups or different fine motor tools like spoons, etc. You don't have to spend so much. It's literally already available at home. One other play experience you can incorporate with your younger toddlers is maybe having different separate trays also for fine motor building. Children go through schematic play, which is basically filling, transferring, and that's something that targets fine motor skills. And again, very easy to do. So sensory play ideas, you can look it up online. Napakaraming ideas dyan na pwedeng i-mix yung mga toys na available. When it comes to physical play and getting your children moving, that's something that I struggle with in, again, an apartment setup. But play, again, in terms of that back to basics perspective, it might be what we do at home is we have indoor picnics that gets our children excited, because on a day-to-day basis, we can get stuck in that lull of maybe academic learning, and we emphasize there is no academic emergency. Now more than ever, we need to focus on your presence with your child. A well-connected and an emotionally fulfilled child with your undivided attention is a child that can manage their own emotions, their own engagement, even without you, fully watching your child. So in terms of having, again, a routine down, having a space that speaks to what your child is interested in, and having a yes space where, let's say, if your child enjoys puzzles or, again, writing, having an area where your child can go back to that on their own without your prompting allows your child to play um, individually, like on your own, on their own. And yeah, apart from that, I think we'll be discussing a bit more, but that's all in all something that you can start with by having your schedule down and maybe setting up a space for your child to play.
Thanks, Sari. Great suggestions. Maybe Doc Coco would like to add some things.
Okay, so thank you for that, Teacher Sari. So a lot of good ideas and thoughts from Teacher Sari about how to do sensory play at home, and a couple of good ideas also. I also just want to add about the importance of play. So play is very important. It affects the different domains of development, and it can actually target all of the aspects of development. So when you play, you develop also physical skills, so you can have, even at home in limited space, usually we get that a lot. So yung iba, you can make them do bring me or scavenger hunts, make them crawl, have indoor obstacle courses inside, so you're having fun and you're playing. You can do charades, so act out animal. So what is this for older kids? You can do you can draw with chalk, pico, or tumbang preso. Back to basics, as Teacher Sari said, diba? You can go back to luksong baka, or yung Chinese garter, diba? Those are indoor play ideas that you can do. At the same time, you're having fun. So physical play, actually play in general, decreases the cortisol level in our brain. So cortisol is the stress hormone. So when children are stressed, they don't function well. They cannot pay attention, and then it actually causes a change in the structure of their brains. It affects the frontal area of the brain, so your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for focusing, attention, memory, your amygdala, which is responsible for your emotions. Kaya when children are stressed, diba, they're very reactive, hindi sila makakoncentrate, they're not motivated. So play can actually address this. It can develop social skills. So for older kids, since we don't recommend digital media for kids 0 to 2 years old as much as possible, especially when it's not supervised, diba? So for older kids, you can make them play games or make them do activities with their same age peers online. Do family activities together, make memories together, sharing a meal with their classmates, and then again, playing through for older kids, you can make them do board games, you can make them do puzzles, because these are things that can build up on your executive function skills. So executive function skills naman are the things you need, again, to memorize, to pay attention, to shift and focus your attention, to plan, to organize. So diba, these are the things that you need for life, for school and for life. So anything that requires them to concentrate, to pay attention, yun nga, mga bring me, board games, action songs for younger kids, because they need to pay attention, they need to memorize, they need to imitate and follow. So these are things that you can do at home. And then, if I may just add, to address their self-regulation and emotional wellness, you can actually teach them coping techniques as early as now. So squeezing muscles one at a time can be one technique. So ask them to squeeze one part of their body and then count 1 to 10. Or teach them belly breathing. And belly breathing is putting your hand over your tummy and your chest, making them breathe in and out. Blowing bubbles for very young kids. So you ask them to smell the flower and blow the bubble. So these are actually mindfulness and coping techniques that you can teach them as early as now, and it will set them up for life for these coping techniques.
Great. These are wonderful insights. So really emphasizing the importance of play, both for learning and development. Going back to basics with the things we're playing with, and really teaching children coping techniques as early as now for their emotional wellness as well. So Doc Coco mentioned a little bit about school also. So especially for the older children, really education is still an important aspect, of course, of our children's growth. And so what can be done really to, on the part of parents, what can they do to help their kids go through online schooling? I think this is really an aspect that maybe Teacher Sari can comment on for the younger kids, and Doc Tins for the older children also.
Yeah, so I think now more than ever, for the younger toddlers, especially those under 5, a lot of the parents that come to us and say, we want to get our child signed up with an online learning class. And, last year, ang galing, napakaraming programs na online at agad-agad, napakaraming everything from karate to ballet, you name it, they're all online, right? But again, as a parent and as an educator, tread through it lightly as well and see if your child is ready. Just like what Doc Coco mentioned, it's not recommended for children under 2. But at the same time, in terms of us going digital and trying to, again, look at why we are doing it, we are trying to reconnect with our children who are unable to go into an early learning center that can, provide and fulfill the needs that they should ideally have in a school setting, but we don't have it. So it's how do we do this? It's basically seeing if your child is ready, seeing as well how long your child will be engaging through these sessions, and at the same time, if there are ideas that you can slowly transition towards like an online setting might be one aspect. So there are so many, again, available resources for all parents at the moment. So online is not the only answer. There are a lot of homeschooling kits that you can try to subscribe to, which doesn't really have that option of online learning yet. You can also maybe do a 30-minute or a 20-minute cycle online and try to see different strategies. So at the same time, you have to see what your child can manage. You have to also, again, take note what your child is interested in. And again, as we all pray that we can go back into the face-to-face setting, unfortunately, the Philippines is one of the last countries, and actually a lot of our first world countries never shut down schools. Why? Mainly because apart from it being the essential care that parents need abroad in first world countries, there is also a recognition that children learn best through these providers, through in school, opportunities that we can't really replicate at home in terms of gaining social interaction with other children, right? But right now, given that that is not something that we can explore at the moment, again, there are so many other ways, and with a perspective that is more into, again, finding what your child is interested in. There are a lot of ways to be able to supplement it while we are at home. So again, different online classes, different activity kits that you can do that's already prepared for moms who don't have the time. For the mommies who are watching, you got to set aside the mom guilt and really just look into what are the practical tips that you need to execute it, because it can be very overwhelming. But at the end of the day, if you're there to, again, see what your child needs at the moment, there are many ways to be able to, again, target these areas and keep them learning.
Thank you. So Dr. Tins, would you like to add po for all the children? How can parents po support the children, especially now that it's mostly online school?
Before I start with that, I just would like to clarify things that on the public school system that I am representing now, there are 48,000 public schools all over the country, spread in different types of topographical conditions. And policies are given by the central office. Frameworks and activities to be done are specified to us from the regional and divisional offices. So frameworks and implementation plans are prepared by the regional office and division office. But actualization of the different things, projects, programs, and activities to be done at the school level is done at the school level. So the principal, together with the parents, the teachers, the students, members of the community, the LGU will have to work together to carry out these programs that we think are the things that best fit our students. So in order to cope with, and let us have a sort of flashback in the form that I would like to remind you and everyone listening to us that there were opposition to carrying out this type of learning. There were the people, especially the parents, were overwhelmed with different concerns. The number one, they were surprised. They're even doubtful if we can really deliver. They were anxious of the effects of this condition. So going into that process, the schools, especially the public school system, will have to contend with the policies released, more than 60 pages of policies released by the DepEd to us, which we have to contextualize, which we have to actualize and make it happen. We are in the forefront of meeting the children, meeting the parents, meeting the teachers, and make them work together so that everything for quality education that we aspire to give to them will be carried out. And remember, there is the different scenario. In the face-to-face, it is understood the teachers will be the one to teach. The parents will send the children to the schools, okay? But no, it's different. The children are with the parents. The teachers are at home. They have to guide the parents who are not ready to teach. And they would not want to teach naturally. Nanay nga, hindi naman sila yung binayaran para magturo yan, something to that effect. So these were the conditions. But still, we were brave enough to really make things happen because we love the children. So we conduct kumustahan sessions, regular parent-teacher conferences, converted into kumustahan, some sort of carrying out our dictum of phase 1, informing the parents, phase 2, involving them, phase 3, inspiring them to carry out everything, every suggestions discussed by the discussants before me. So in other words, it's a different scenario, as I've said. Teachers are in their homes, the parents are with their kids, and they were surprised, they were overwhelmed with ways, ako ba talaga magturo, something to that effect. And we have to contend with the previous preparations. We have to get ready with the materials on the first grading. On the second grading, we have to transition from the modular to digitized modular, and then to blended, and then to online with offline activities as we see fit, depending on the needs that have arisen from the different activities that we have given them. So also this, yun nga complete turnaround na gano'n na starting from the simulation activities, when we introduce the basic education learning continuity plan, it's a continuity plan. So in other words, we have to really make education continue. And the principals and everyone involved in the system should be, ready to accept the challenge of making education continue for the children. And by the way, the DepEd is a very unique agency. We have attached agencies. We have to contend with the policies released by the national government, by the IATF, by the DOH, by the DBM, by the COA, and everything in relation to how do we make education continue. And aside from the many pages of policies that we have to contend with and follow, we have to inform, involve, and inspire the parents. These are the things, gumawa pa kami ng mga capacity building na while we capacitate the teachers, then we capacitate ngayon the parents. Kasi nga, kumbaga, partner namin sila sa teaching and learning situation now. The different thing that we have now. So, sabay-sabay yun that we had to do that. I was supervisor for 7 years. I have taught for 23 years. I have served. And on January 2022, I would have served Navotas National High School for 14 years. So I have seen truly the 360-degree turnaround of a principal. How do you make things easier for them? Let's say, for example, at the time they were overwhelmed with so many modules. They wanted to get online teaching. At the time we would introduce online, they would want modular or something like that. hanggang malito na kami, ano ba talaga ang gusto nila. But we have to harmonize all these activities, programs, and projects laid down to us by DepEd. Let's say, for example, resilience, the disaster risk management, gulayan sa paran. We have to harmonize all this so that it will not be too overwhelming on the part of the students. After harmonization and enticing and luring the parents to assist, to guide, and collaborate with us, there is the translation into action. The never-ending question of, do we really make the students learn? Are they really learning? How do we know? How do we guide the teachers? How do we check their attendance? How do we know that they are really teaching their students? These are the questions that, on the part of the leadership, as I've said, is something for us to record with. So we try our very best that we build confidence among the parents and guardians that we are collaborators in the process of giving education to the students, and that they do not own really the process of teaching them. We just wanted their children to be provided with the learning space, the learning condition, no matter how small the household is. We just wanted them to be guided about that using their time effectively. I have conducted a study about students telling me that the first thing they have lost for this almost 1 year of COVID-19 pandemic affecting them, children have lost their sense of time. Lumabas yan sa study ko na they have lost the sense of time. Kailan ba ang recess? Kailan ba yung ganito, ganyan? When do I do this? When do I play? Take note of that. And also convincing them na hindi naman sila sinasadyang ikulong. Na sila ay nandiyan. Wala kaming magagawa. We have to follow the protocols that they should stay home. Keep safe. Follow the protocols, wash your hands, distancing, something like that. So combined with us, kailangan pa namin talagang i-carry out yung curriculum and instruction. Meron kami sa DepEd na tinatawag na academic is. And that's why for principals like us, we have to think of ways to make learning fun, enjoyable, and easy. As much as possible, something that students in their homes, those who are not allowed to go out, would accept in a way na hindi sila pinaparusahan or something like that. So these are the many things that in the public school system we have got to contend with. After we have gathered the resources and the DepEd tried its very best to provide us with the needed resources, example, terms of modules and everything, ay gagawin naman namin yan na how to make resource mobilizations. In the case of Navotas High, I have obtained the resources to carry out action research for all of our students. And that I have proven kasi ngayon, ang action research writing at Navotas High is already cascaded down to grade 8 level. 160 teachers were taught how to carry out action research. And that teacher with an advisory class of 40 to 50 students, each one of them is taught action research. And that is my form of manifesting translation into action of the things they have learned through our curriculum and instruction processes. So we really, ang maganda doon is basically, as I've said, the principalship is relational. How do you make relationships work with the parents? How do you make them obey? How do you make them informed so that they will not oppose you, they will not doubt you, and at the end they will be able to really enable us to do our things because they are supporting us. So I have Parents Volunteer Brigade that I have connected with Miss Yulo, with the TFE, with Ma'am Clarice Delgado or something like that. I presented to them that there are students who would like to do isang nanay, isang gulay, a source of livelihood for the parents, and a way for to sustain themselves para maganon. And it was made basis for a Republic Act about free school feeding program for the secondary level. A proof that truly action research can be a way for us to be heard. In a small school, simple school like that, I have to convince them they can write, they can do it, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And this principal will support them all the way. That's why I show them that I can also do action research.
Very
So
admirable.
I will invite you sa aming darating na third Congress of Students in Action Research. Okay.
You emphasize for really the balance between interacting home and the school, no? I think Doc Coco has some advice also on the home perspective, what we can do for older children.
Okay, so thank you, Doc Tin. It's very admirable what your school and what you did to pivot to the needs of the students, no? Kasi iba talaga ngayon, these are hard times for both students and parents. So just to add on to what you said and what teacher Sari said about making it work from home. So aside from the routine, so having a set schedule, establishing the structure like the yes space for younger children, like what teacher Sari said, we recommend having online classes in the same spot. And then yung mga mommies then, we recommend na you work in an area na it will tell your kids na this is mommy's workspace, this is when mommy is here, it's work time, para at least they have that visual cue na pag nandun kayo, work mode. Kasi it's hard. Ngayon talaga kids very clingy yan na mommy, let's play, di ba ganyan? You can set up schedules na visual for younger kids na nakalagay yung schedules nyo both. So at least nga that will help set limits when it comes to work and play. And then when it comes to online schooling, syempre you want to be encouraging, not too pressuring. Kasi nga again, whatever works for you and your family, when the child is ready, Teacher Sari emphasized that, the readiness of the child. And then for older kids, help them plan and organize. So help them make checklists, break down tasks. For example, they have a lot of homework. Okay, sige, which one do you want to do first? Give them agency, give them a choice on what they want to do first. So do you want to do this one first or this one? Kasi when older kids have a say, especially yung mga pagdating ng mga 6 up, they start to become more independent. When they have a say in what they want to do, or what do you want to do first? Do you want to put this in your schedule? Do you want to have a break? For kids, you can insert movement breaks. Allow them to use different approaches for learning. Now is the time to see how your kids learn best. So marami yan, visual learners. Some are auditory. So some are kinesthetic. So they need to move around. So you have different types of learners who see how your child learns best. There, that's it.
Yes, it's really an opportunity to really diversify how our kids are learning now. So given that there's really a need for balance, I think one of the concerns is the amount of screen time. So school is online, and then the recommendations on how long screen time should be. What else can we do with our kids, and really how much screen time is okay considering that school is online now?
Okay, so I'll answer it. So I think it's a controversial. This is controversial as much as possible. Syempre, you want to, for children 0 to 2, you want to limit it. But the American Academy of Pediatrics, may bago silang guidelines na as early as 18 months, you can do interactive FaceTime. So you can talk to relatives, or you can, as long as it's interactive and it's not using the gadget as a babysitter. And then syempre, when you have online school, that's already screen time. So aside from the effects on the brain, syempre, you have eye strain, you have all those things. So as much as possible, we try to limit. And yun nga, structure is very important. The routine and the schedule, as mentioned earlier, is very important. But if hindi talaga kaya, because I'm a mom also, so I know how hard it is, we recommend still co-viewing and supervision, syempre. Kasi kids can learn naman as long as it's interactive. So just make it interactive. Make sure to guide your children throughout the screen time if hindi talaga kayang i-limit. Pero syempre, it's important to set structure and limits as much as possible.
Okay, thank you. So maybe Sari and Dr. would like to add really other activities that we can give.
Okay. Okay, so very well discussed naman nila on the part of how the teachers do it. But I would like to emphasize that what I'm talking about here is how the leadership make it happen at the school level, no? Yung mga suggestions ni Teacher Sari, something to that effect. So for public school students that internet connectivity may hinder their academics, yun nga, the DepEd has released that policy and program about academic ease. And in that academic ease, it's up for the interpretation, implementation, actualization of the principal. When I saw that the teachers were also overwhelmed with the overlapping activities as a mom and a teacher, remember that almost every teacher is also a mother and they are teachers of children of other people. Pero ngayon, dagdag yung anak nila. So ang number one din lumabas doon, ay ano nga ba mga problems nila is overlapping activities as a teacher and as a parent. And coping with all these activities that they have to do for the children they are teaching. So on the part of the leadership, how do we augment? Say, for example, there will be lesser resources provided for that. How do you teach the no-tech, low-tech, and high-tech students? So I saw it fit that students will have to be profiled by the advisors, so they will be given priority. Who are the students who are most needing of modules? At the time, modules will have to be used. Who are the students that will have to be provided later on through resource mobilization, the gadgets they need. But specifically, all students should learn. So we have capacitated the teachers to carry out lessons, recommending to them lessons that from modular to printed, digitized, and then blended online, offline. What are these available offline learning materials? Yung pwedeng i-save, pwedeng i-access kahit walang internet, no? They have to compile video lessons for the students, video lessons that they have to check whether these are validated and appropriate for the children. We have resourced USB OTG from the local government for those who were really found out to be not having gadgets or something like that. The local government provided through our proposal that we need help in terms of gadgets to be loaned to the children, if not given outrightly, something like that. So aside from compilation of video lessons, we also made sure that there are tiered tasks, no? Yun nga for no-tech, low-tech, and high-tech students. Even the assessments that we provide to them are in consonance with these tiered tasks. Infographics, how do they create summary outlines of the lessons, topics for the day? And you will be surprised that with the travelogue series that they have done, with everything, we really made it happen. Yun nga ang project namin ngayon ng division na cross-curricular integration. There will be one minimum learning essential, MELCS namin na tinatawag. Meron kami doon ikakabit na a learning competency will be taught in the 8 subject areas, cross-curricular, aspects, and then may isa lang integrated assessment tool. So gumaan yung pagtuturo, gumaan din yung question na naparaming modules, ang daming pages, something to the effect. Capacitated ang teachers to produce 1 or 2 pages of intervention activity worksheets that they give to the children. That's why that is my belief, no? Yung pag nakapacitate po sila, they will make changes, they see fit every time that problems arise in the process of converting the teaching learning action process into an easier one. So aside from making, yun nga, meron din kaming recorded lessons online na anytime pwedeng i-view ng bata. Kung ano naman, kung ang kaya lang nila is to talk with the teacher through FB and Messenger, we also have lessons converted into that. So these processes, and we have volunteers, tutor volunteers from the Parents Volunteer Brigade. This is the role of the principal to see the connect between how do we ensure that the teachers teach, that the children learn, and the parents help So yun ang mga question. And then we harmonize all these activities so that we make sure na natututo ang bata. Nung una, first grading modular. Second grading, yun nga, transition to online, blended. Pero ngayon third grading, talagang nagawa na namin yung online, offline, through cross-curricular integration, making it possible that the whole school approach through the 8 departments are done. So we have multimedia lessons in 8 subject areas in 4 grade levels plus grade 11 na aming senior high. And the students help us produce all the materials we did. Let's say, for example, this learning competency is taught by the teacher this way. That is how she prepared the lesson plan. After executing the lesson, then there will be students, you know what, ma'am, I think this is how I learned it better. Oh, yeah, adapt namin yun. So getting from the students. At magugulat ka naman talaga niyan. At naman sa public schools yan, you would see students who are very creative. That's why the leadership speaks of creativity, collaboration, and turning these students to 21st century learners despite, sometimes lack of resources that we need. But will be other people to help us carry out this contextualization depending on our situation and making our students learn and show by manifestation that they have done the activities. Example, meron kaming mga activities sa school na school collab namin is collab. Nung face-to-face, merong duty card prepared by the Boy Scout group and the Supreme Student Government that yung indicators for skills to be manifested kapag may DRRM, gulayan, okay sa DepEd, all these activities, project watch, na turn into skills. Gagawin yun ng bata isa-isa to be checked and titingnan namin ang extent through the advisors paano nagawa. Ngayon namang merong pandemya, tinurn namin ito yon sa school collab ko 2.0. At yun naman, we turn the skills into values. Naka-align sa DepEd na makakalikasan, makabansa, maka-Diyos, etc. Nandoon naman yung what are expected of them. And the parents have a learning support system. They help the teachers monitor if the students really manifest this translation into action in the forms of values that they have to do at home.
Really,
And yun talaga ang kailangan na kaibigan mo yung mga magulang at kakosa mo sila sa lahat ng mga bagay, so to speak.
It's nice for that you're really providing the avenue also with school for the children to do other things aside from having the screen time. So I think Ma'am Tony would like to say something.
Actually, I have a question and Doc Robles already has touched on it, no? Paano po ini-engage yung parents natin? Yun yung parang pinakamalaking challenge po na nakikita namin. Kasi iba-iba po yung pinanggagalingan, hindi ba po, ng mga magulang natin. And so, in a setting like your school po, how do you begin to open up to the parents and then explain to them yung pagbabago dito sa learning process ng mga bata? Thank you po.
Madam Tony, ang ano po kasi niyan ay it comes in stages. I have been principal for 14 years at Navotas National High School. So talaga po yan talaga na paano namin makukuha. And meron nga pong 3 stages. Inform. When we inform them, I conduct a general assembly, I call on them, nagtatayo ako yun nga, naitayo ko ngayon Parents Volunteer Brigade, isang nanay, isang gulay, na ang naging dictum ng mga parents, alam mo ma'am, naging principal ka rito, naging kaalad ka rin kami. Isang patawag mo lang, nandiyan na kami. Nandiyan kami sa'yo. At ang favorite line ko nga, mag-uusap kami, ako naman ay mabibigyan ko sila ng paupo, kung wala mang pakain, may paupo, at ako naman kamote lang at diabetic ako, pwede na, something to that effect. So yan yung hanggang na-build up ngayon, na ma'am, isa lang pala, magtanim lang pala kami ng isang gulay, kanya nga nag-isa na isang gulay isang gulay, nako, oka ko, 4,000 okra yun, dudulas na tayo doon, at 4,000 ang tawag dyan, ang palaya, papait na tayo dyan, something to that effect. Tapos iyon ay, so na-inform sila doon hanggang na-involve, part din ng instruction, if we have to teach them, may capacity building, meron kaming parents seminars sa kanila about child rearing practices, naka-align na yun sa guidance, monthly. Oo. Tapos, meron akong state of the school address. O, di ba, ang forma, Ma'am Tony, may state of the school address. At the start of the school year, I submit to them my school report card. Ano-ano ang mga kailangan ng school, something to that effect, paano sila tutulong, kung di man sila, how do they get other supporters or donors to that effect, na sila ang kikilos. Alam nila, information yon, information giving. Sa involvement, doon nga papasok yung we learn things together. Pag pumasok na yung inspire, yung pusang dumadating, naging kalad-karin na nga, pardon the term, something to that effect. Kasi hindi ko malimutan yung nanay na yun. Nang maging principal ka rito, ma'am, naging kalad-karin na ako. At uma-attend pa ako ng 3 meeting. Bakit naman? Kasi baka iba-iba ang joke mo sa bawat meeting. Sabi niya, something like that. Na truly nakita ko yung suporta na yun na in my 14 years naman, I have worked with them na wala naman siguro nag-aspire, patanggal ako o i-rally ako or something to that effect. And yung ma-carry out mo yung isang nanay, isang gulay, connect mo sa community na bawat parent bago mag-enroll, dapat may tanim na gulay. Kasi yung mga tanim nilang yun ay source for livelihood in their own places, lalo na ngayong pandemic. Meron kami ngayong virtual na gulayan sa paaralan. Every child is asked to submit. Di ba yung sa collab nga, checkan yun, may tanim ka bang gulay? O, the additional yun, something na yun ang involvement. At saka, itong distribution, ma'am, ay more online classes than modular because ang isang aspect is teachers are obliged to work from home. Sino magdi-distribute? Ako. 4,000 yun. 5,000 bata. Ako rin ang magko-collect. Something to that effect. Kanya nga, kung para magsalubong yung modular to, kami ng USB OTG na yung lessons na na-prepare na naman ng teachers capacitated on doing the modules on their own, translating them into 1 or 2 pages that will work, employing integrative assessment like this, yun ay carefully na ipapasok na yun sa OTG, sent to the parents. Pinaunawa ko sa parents, mako-COVID naman ako, kadi-distribute nyo, magkari-retrieve, something like that. And they understand. So ngayon, nung araw, yung puro modular ang gusto, ay pumayag na rin ngayon sa online. So, doon sa question mo, ma'am, talagang tulad nung nagpunta nga si Yulo sa amin, nakita niya na meron akong bata na nag-carry out ng isang nanay, isang gulay through the Boy Scout yun. Yun nga, i-refer daw niya ako sa mom niya to have a tower of garden na just to remind the community nung isang nanay, isang gulay. Nagituloy ang pagtatanim sa bahay pangkain. Dahil nung dati kasi, source of feeding namin yun yung naitanim ng nanay, nagbibigay isang gulay. Papakain yun. Tapos yung iba, pag marami, binibili ng kantin, source of livelihood.
Opo. Actually po, ma'am, si Yulo, pamangkin ko ho yun.
Ay, ma'am, ganun po ba?
Napaka-close po kami ng batang yan.
Ay, opo, ma'am.
Mabait at talagang hardworking po siya. Opo.
Opo. Yun nga po. Project ko po na pinapakiusap sa kanya, ma'am, yung isang nanay, isang gulay nga na magtuloy. May tower kami doon na doon magtatanim and the resources will be given to the parents to remind them continuously na kailangan namin na and ako nakapag-resource mobilization at ako ng simple, Ma'am Tony.
Mag-usap pa tayo again. Salamat po. Salamat po.
Meron po yung project proposal, ma'am. Naka-ready na yan for any time na kung sino mag-ano. So yun po. I enjoy working with the parents. I tell them, you know what, these are the things we need. Nakikita naman nila. And every day from 6 to 6, I'm there. They're free to go to the office. Napakalito man ng office, simple lang. Sabi ko, nandiyan lang ako. And so they can find, siguro yun yung isang way. Kahit nga po senior ako ngayon, I report to the school as much as possible. Kasi nga, I would like to show them that tuloy pa rin kami. Kahit isolation facility yung school namin, as of the moment, tuloy pa rin. And we won, number 1 pa nga sa brigada ng SCR because of that.
Okay. Thank you po, ma'am. Thank you.
So thank you, Ma'am Tony, for your question also. With that, I mean, we would love to continue our discussions also, but we'd like to take this time now to really answer some of the questions from the pre-registration form. And also, if you have any questions now from the audience, if you want to type them into the chat box or in the Facebook comments, we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. So to start off our Q&A portion, one of our participants was asking about her child who had a change of attitude since the pandemic started. Her child is 12 years old. So she used to be sweet and makulit, but lately she lost enthusiasm with her studies. And this manifested when online classes started. She's always trying to reach out, but the child does not seem responsive. And then how can she deal with this? How can they check up on their children without being brushed off? So I think anybody, Doc Coco or Sari.
Okay, so thank you for that question. We actually had a lot of these concerns. So madaming parents na reach out to us with the same concerns for older kids. Ganyan yung concern, usually lack of motivation, lack of interest. For parents, I would advise to yes, try to reach out, or if they seem close to it, give them an avenue where they can express themselves. So what is your child's interest? You can do it through art, through painting, kahit or you can give them a journal. I have a lot of patients who are older who do journaling. A lot of parents say na nakatulong sa kanila. But you also open up the avenue. So relationship building then, although this is a tricky age kasi early adolescent. So relationship building, just tell them na, I'm always here if you need to talk to anybody, or you can tell them na if you're feeling anything or whatever, I'm just here to listen to you. Or you can talk to some other trusted adult, usually yung teachers yan, kung hindi nila makausap yung parents nila. This age kasi pre-adolescent, talagang sa teachers or adolescent, teachers or friends yan eh. So plus you teach them coping techniques. Again, what does the child like to do? If he likes dancing, if he likes singing, you can tell them, you know what, when I listen to music, I feel happier. Gusto mo bang i-try yun? And then giving them agency over their choices. Sige, let's fix your schedule. What do you want to do? Before online school, do you want to talk to your friends? Do you want to talk to your friends over breakfast? Kasi ang daming pwedeng reasons for doing this. But if your child is medyo chronically na ganito, I would advise you to seek consult, whether talk to your pediatrician, baka ma-refer kayo to either a child psychiatrist, child psychologist, or developmental pediatrician, especially if it's impairing na yung condition. We call it impairing if hindi na nakaka-function yung child. Ayaw na mag-aral, ayaw na mag-homework. I would suggest for you to reach out to a professional already. Pero you can try those techniques first at home. Kasi talagang very difficult to, especially for the older kids.
Thank you, Doc Coco. Sari or Doc Pins, would you like to add anything po?
Okay. On the part naman of a principal, again, as I've said, how do I make things like Ma'am Sari do those things on their own? Yung paano ko sila ma-entice, all 160 of them, to do that for the sake of the children. Number one, as a school head, I laid down through the help of the guidance counselor, a very comprehensive guidance program that will tackle all these emerging and dati ng activities to help the children. It is something in place already as we prepare our basic education learning continuity plan. I believe that the guidance really office has a very big role in helping the school in terms of how do we connect with the parents, how do we connect with the teachers, parents and teachers, parents and students, student and school, something like that. And that is the work of the comprehensive guidance program at the start of preparing the basic learning continuity plan. Dapat na in place na yan ng principal. Now, ita-translate ko yan into action, asking the 8 department heads to work with the guidance office and produce a program or carry out a program na the same problem or issue will be tackled. So, yun nga yung tinatawag kong whole school approach. So, guidance office plus 8 departments all working together to help the children. May nakaka-invento nung kinakailangang kausapin nila talaga. Merong kasi naka-profile, ang ibig sabihin ng profile, alam ng even in the form of anecdotal records o something records, alam ni teacher advisor yung apat niyang estudyante. Sino ang matampuhin, sino pala absent, sino yung matagal sumunod, yung ganito. And then, there is the training for the teachers to realize iba ang sitwasyon ngayon. Pandemic. So maging conscientious naman tayo. At pangalawa, I do not see them. Have the conscience that they are paid. They are tasked by the government to teach. And no cheating on their part, so to speak. Joke lang. So in other words, kabit-kabit yun eh.
Yes.
Konsyensya lang. I really ask them to connect with the heads to follow up and follow through yung mga activities nila. Pag yung bata ay may problema, tinatanong ko, nagawa mo na bang lahat ang paraan? Na-reach out mo ba yan? Nung siya ba'y kailangan ka niya, nandiyan ka o hindi kayo nakikita dahil hindi tama oras yun? O something like that. Meron nagpapaturo na parang feeling na sa call center, pang 12:00, 1:00. May teacher na pumapatol doon. So, yun naman, recognize ko yung effort ng teachers na yun after having seen the documentation of the processes they have done. Oo, yung mga ganun. So, yung mga suggestions ni na Teacher Sari and nakikita ko rin na talagang totoo dahil yung anak ko na masyadong mahilig sa kindergarten, yung nag-present ng LCP ng kinder, si Teacher Fatty Robles. Oo, yung nakikita kayo, may schedule kami na kailan babangon yung kinder. Kompleto kami rito sa bahay. May principal, may teacher 1, teacher 2, master teacher, kinder, grade 3, at saka senior high.
Actually, Doc Tin, parang to connect to that, in the same regard na we carve out and draw out a structured schedule for school, I think in terms of trying to, again, fulfill the needs and maintain our children's motivation and again, the mental health, dapat
sinasama namin yun sa training.
As much as possible kung pwede, in terms of tuning in with the family and disconnecting to connect, I think is what we need more than ever. Again, I can't emphasize enough in tuning in with your kids. It might mean even adding that into the schedule and making sure that in terms of the boundaries of online education, make sure that's, if in the same regard na overwhelmed tayo with all our Zoom meetings, all our work online, what more our children? So we need to be very, very conscious about how much time our children are spending online, and at the same time, fulfill that creative outlet, that interest of your child to, again, fulfill your child's agency in terms of what Doc Coco mentioned, what other maybe classes or, again, activities that they would like to do more of outside of online schooling. Because wala everything's modeled at home, di ba? Wala na tayong space for creative learning and for our kids to feel less of the pressure and for us to feel more connected in our kids. I think it's best also to carve that into our schedule. Maybe at a certain schedule after class or when your work permits. This might mean everybody is off their gadgets. It's family time. We do family games that may be, again, embedded in your routine. Kasi, again, apart from your children thriving in structure, consistency is key. So, may routine nga, pero kung paiba-iba ang routine mo per week, sayang, 'di ba? So, dapat yung routine at schedule mo na as much as possible, syempre, kailangan flexible dahil ang dami nating mga responsibilidad na gina-juggle on a day-to-day basis. Kailangan as much as possible, yung family time and tuning in into our kids is definitely a non-negotiable. And that way, we can kind of see what will keep my child motivated. And I can't emphasize enough, even after the pandemic, I think that's the most important thing. At present, yes, there are there's a learning loss and a learning deficit that we are all aware of. But after, what happens then? How do we help equip our kids for when we do go back to school? And again, it's just, diba, they're all interconnected. So I guess with all this information that we're sharing, it's important to, again, before trying all these strategies, see first what you can apply to your family, see which key areas and people you can partner with, because apart from partnering with schools, which we've heard enough of from Doctin, we're all in this big village of trying to again keep our children developing despite the pandemic.
Thank you for that. So I think that kind of ties in also to our next question, but this is now for a younger child. So a couple of our participants have toddlers, so less than 2 years old. So one of them does not speak so much at 2 years old, and they're thinking it's maybe because of the lack of interaction with friends and the cousins. So is video conferencing an acceptable alternative, or how else can we encourage language development in this age?
Okay, can I answer first? Okay, sige. Go ahead, teacher Sari. Okay, sige. So encouraging language development, there are actually studies now, no, ang daming lumalabas na ganitong concerns with toddlers. We think it's because, diba, you're doing the same thing every day. So it's just wake up, eating, sleeping. So ang dami talagang may language concerns because children are not exposed to the variety of words as compared to before. And syempre, you have to have experiences to enrich children's language. Plus, there are some studies na lumalabas that the masks can actually affect language development as well. Kasi as early as 8 months, babies learn how to lip read. So they really look at your mouth to form words, to be able to talk. Pero syempre, safety comes first. So when it comes to this, we encourage everybody, whenever you have time with your babies, as much little time as it is, or with your younger children, be fully present. Hi, little girl. There's a little girl there. So be fully present when you're with your children. So try, mahirap kasi we're in the digital world, try to set your gadgets aside, face your children, talk to them face to face, make them look at your mouths, play with them when they give you something. Pag may inabot sila sa inyo, you have to respond to it right away and you have to label it. So for example, naglalaro sila with a car or naglalaro sila with something. Wow, nice car. Ang ganda naman ng kotse mo. So they say na children learn words when they hear it 500 times or more. So you really have to talk to your children paulit-ulit. So in a sentence, for example, describe everything that you're doing. Okay, we're going to eat na. Let's get your plate. Put your plate on the table. Get your spoon. Okay, put your spoon in your mouth. So describe everything that you're doing. Respond to your child's cues. Kahit turo lang, maituturo sila, gusto mo yung baso mo? Sige, let's get your glass. Sige, lagay na tayong water in your glass. Ganyan. So paulit-ulit, describe everything that you're doing. Read to your children kasi nga very limited yung experiences natin. So the books will give you a much wider variety of language and vocabulary. Ang requirement ko actually read to your children 5 times a day. So 5 books or more, 5 to 10 books, kasi talagang the exposure with the quality of words affects their words. Eventually, it will affect their reading. Children will not learn how to read if they do not know the words. Kasi, di ba, phonetic po yan, di ba, Doctins? Kailangan alam nila yung sound, alam nila yung word, familiar sila with it to be able to connect the letters and the sounds that they see on the book. So actually, small skills so that they have to build and they have to have a strong foundation of language to be able to do academic things in the future. So talk to your children, read to them, play with them. Kasi when you're playing with them, may interaction yan, di ba? So give them a choice. What do you want? Yung car mo o yung ball? Okay, yung ball. Sige, let's play with your ball. Roll the ball. Ganyan. So go with your child's interest. I love what teacher Sari said about that. Go with your child's interest kasi they will learn when they are interested in it.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Dr.
Ma'am Kat, on the part of the leadership naman, ipakikita ko yung connect. So these are the beautiful ideas and insights of these experts in the field of teaching the younger set. And being a high school principal, pwede ko na rin naman sabihin from kinder up to senior high school, yun naman ang magiging role namin na all these beautiful insights and ideas be put into a plan and then implement the plan and then see how I can mobilize the 160 teachers to do it. Oo, lahat ng ipapasok ng teachers per department, ito po maganda, ito po ang gagawin, ito gano'n, will be consolidated into a plan Yun nga yung basic education learning continuity plan, and then we produce our framework for implementation plan, and then from the implementation plan, carry out the activities para magawa namin yun hanggang dulo to achieve through an accomplishment report, the different outputs we got from the plan. So dito, natutuwa ako, magsasuggest tong dalawang kasama kong magaganda, si Teacher Sari and Dr. Coco, something like that. Tapos, from there, it's up for the principal now. Paano mo siyang ibababa? Halimbawa, isa siya doon to sa 159. So that 159 of them will be doing that like an orchestra under my baton. Oh.
Okay. Sari, you wanted to say something as well?
Yeah, so just connecting with what Doc Coco also mentioned, again, providing practical experiences at home help best with language development. So for the one who put that in the chat box, as much as possible, I think some of our parents think too lowly. Parang they feel like they're not equipped, but you are equipped. And in fact, you're the best resource at home. Reading again to your child, there's so many rich opportunities of language development as your child's word bank grows, as your child learns to speak conversationally and explain. Again, if you're doing sensory experiences at home, from what does it feel like? What are you using? How many scoops did you put that in, etc. It's, again, if you think about it, these are all basic and very simple opportunities in the day-to-day structure at home. And again, I think we didn't get to recommend also in trying to help build your child's role at home, and at the same time providing mga self or practical life skills. Let's say cleaning and watering our plants in the garden for all the pandemic plantitas that we already all of a sudden have. Engage the kids. And again, use that as an opportunity, because our children learn best through play, yes, and at the same time through real life experiences. And to be able to connect and extend that is something that a screen cannot provide. So as much as possible, even with the day-to-day bursts of, if it's lunch break in your household, come on, Ayla, let's set up the table, and we have how many people setting up the table today, how many do we have to provide for, etc. And it's these simple daily routines that you can actually already maximize. So it doesn't have to be bonggang structured or Pinterest-worthy na sensory activity. Hindi talaga. Mga simple daily activities lang na, again, kailangan sustainable eh. Kailangan on a daily, consistent, and syempre, until we're back to face-to-face classes, it's something na, again, what you can fulfill, you manage that, and hopefully you get to maintain it until we're back to school. And then I think there was one other question about whether or not online schooling is advisable for the first time. So with Playscape, we actually cater to children under 5. And I think this was the hardest pivot for us, because we know that young children are not meant to be in front of the screen, right? So as much as possible, we limit the screen time. We don't do this every day with our classes. In fact, in, again, respecting every child's pace and readiness, trial classes are offered so that we can see whether or not your child is, again, ready for this. And at the same time, it's bundled with activities that once the screen is off, again, the whole intention is to be able to equip the moms at home and provide stimulating and sensory activities, a variety of activities that parents are looking for. So I would say that for online schooling, if you would like to try it out, there's no harm in trying it out. But again, it's with that intention of looking into whether or not your child is ready and whether or not you are able to supplement, because online schooling is not the only resource you should be doing. It's only a supplement to what else you're providing at home.
If I may just add, Kat, sorry.
Sure.
Just reach out to that mom. No, it's okay. If no, I still encourage you to reach out to your child's pediatrician if you still have concerns about your child's development, because it's best to intervene early if ever. And yes, I agree with what Teacher Sari said. It's still the everyday practical experiences that you can have you can enrich your language with, especially for children this age, because young children are sensory motor. Again, they learn best through using their senses, through their everyday experiences, through everyday everyday things that they do. I'm sorry. So there. So just reach out to your pediatrician for any other concerns, because you might also need to be seen. So it's best to intervene early.
Thanks. Yes, important. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time. We would love to answer more of your questions. If you want, actually, you can put them on our Facebook comments. Maybe we can get back to them later in the day or during the week. So just keep posting your questions. We'd love to hear from you. Just to close, maybe from each of our dedicated panelists, maybe 1 to 2 sentences as a final message to our participants today.
Si Doc Tins. Doc Tins, go ahead po. Una na po kayo.
Diba?
Una na po kayo.
Okay. Well, as I've said, we at the DepEd, especially the public schools, are trying our very best naman to really make education work. We support the DepEd in giving quality education through activities, programs, and projects that we see fit to give to the children from all ages. And sometimes changes, disruptions, and challenges come to us, and because of this we have to react well and to react fast, and in order to do this, determination to help, and also love for genuine love for the children, and our love for our work. I would like to always say that I follow this dictum that I share with everyone anywhere I go: simplify your work, amplify your impact.
Nice. Wonderful. Okay. Who wants to go next? Sari?
Okay. I can go next.
Okay, go ahead, teacher Sari.
I think the number one reminder here is, again, play is the true engine of learning. So at the end of the day, if you are allowing your child to play, and at the same time, if you are tuned in and you know what needs there are for your children and your family, then you can achieve holistic development at home. We are all in this together in terms of us being providers, educators, and with the families. I think, again, with that that partnership, there's so much that can be done. So in knowing what needs you might need as well, and seeking help from different practitioners. Again, we have our pediatricians who are always here and available to us. Don't be afraid to ask for help as well. And the self-care of our parents, in taking care of our kids, if you don't put yourself first, it will be hard to fulfill and take care of the needs of your children. So at the end of the day, I think self-care for parents are also key. So yeah, that's it. I hope we gave you all the tools to be able to kickstart that developmental learning at home. And you can reach out if you need any help.
Thank you. And finally, Doc Coco.
Okay, so these are unusual and very challenging times for everybody, and I commend everybody, the parents, the teachers, Doctins and Teacher Sari, you are heroes. Also in this pandemic, I admire how everybody pivoted to the needs of the kids everywhere. And for the parents, so many information out there, but do what's best for your family, whatever works for you and your family. Know your kids, you know your kids best. Listen to your instincts. It's not an easy thing to do, juggling everything. I'm sure you have your concerns. I'm sure you also have to respond to the needs of your children. So don't forget to be kind to yourselves, self-care, like what Teacher Sari said. Give yourselves a break. Make sure you also have some downtime to pay attention to your needs so you can take care of your kids better. And play with your children. Make this a memorable, fun experience for them. De-stress yourselves through playing, make wonderful memories, be silly, laugh with your children. Okay, so there, thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for the wonderful messages, wonderful tips for this pandemic. And to close off, let's invite the Vice President of SM Prime for advertising of SM Prime Holdings, Ms. Grace Magno. Thank you for your support making this possible. Would you like to give us a few words?
Thank you very much. No, thank you, EpiMetrics, for bringing this to the spotlight. No, this is a very, very relevant topic for many of the parents, no, young parents who really come to our mall. I just want to thank Dr. Cristina Robles. You know, now I know why Navotas High School is number one in terms of
Thank you,
performance.
ma'am.
You're fantastic. No, your dedication. I wish you, safety also, no, because you come to
Yes,
work every
ma'am.
day, just like our bosses. So they all, and our whole
Thank you, ma'am.
teacher Sari, that was also very wonderful to learn that you don't have to have complicated or big houses or I mean big spaces, playing with water, playing with the basic things that are in the house. We used to do that when we were kids, diba, Doc Cristina?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
That's how we learn. And
Yes.
this opportunity to go back to basics is so important, diba? And I think that it's also in a way God given that we're being asked to, to go back to the basics of, talking to your children, reading to them, diba? So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for those suggestions that are very, very practical. And of course, Dr. Colleen, fantastic insights, no? That will really, really help our moms. No, we have a lot of moms who love SM. And of course, you know that we have a very, very simple mission actually in SMA. That's to provide a safe place for families, no, to bond, and parang we're like the plaza of before pero may aircon, 'di ba? Aircon. So it's really that, not to bond and have a simple fun day. And of course nothing affected us so much as this pandemic when people are scared to go out, but we continue to engage with the families who are still there, no, they're in their homes, yes, but we engage with them so that we provide them with tools. And that's why we, together with the NRC, decided to, let's do a learning series for all life stages, no. And this is one of the biggest life stages groups that need help at this time, in homeschooling, in holistic development of children, and in caring for kids, no, during COVID. So I really want to thank you for all your passion. Grabe, no? It was very, very uh, noteworthy, no? I also like the insight that children have lost their sense of time and that there's a need for schedules. And I think that if there's one thing I took from here, it's that we need to provide that sort of firm hand in doing that, so that later on, di ba, they're not like parang nakawala or they don't know
Yes.
what to do because school is going to be structured. So now we are asked to do that, no. Also that they are not jailed, that this is
Yes.
a punishment. This is
Yes.
actually a beautiful time to bond, no, at
Yes.
home. um I like, when you said read, that books, they are very important when we were kids. Like, for example, me, I read Black Beauty siguro 100 times because, we only had few books at that. I mean, you don't really, you cannot order from online sources, but now they can, no? So I really want to thank you for all of that. For teaching, for telling parents that, they can help you water the plants or even grow plants, no? So Gen Z, Gen X, all these younger generations, they're really into saving the earth. And so I think that, their example will teach the younger kids. So thank you again. Now, I also want to do part two actually, diba, Doc? Um, I want to do part two because really when the pandemic is over, what na?
Yes. That will be another.
That's going to be very challenging for all
So
of the
true.
parents out there. What's going to
You're
happen
right.
when the pandemic is over? How will my children go out into a world that's different? No.
Mm.
So if there's any way that we in SM can help, diba, that's what we'd like to continue doing, because it's part of the resiliency program that we support Miss Tony Yulo and the NRC with, no, na we like to make sure that our communities are safe, our communities continue to develop, and especially the younger generations, of which we depend so much on, because the future is theirs, it's not ours, diba? So thank you very much for that. I want to end. Actually, I really like what Doc said. Simplify your work, amplify your impact. Diba? Fantastic. So we'd like to be your enablers, no? If there's any
Thank you.
books you want, baking supplies, whatever, diba? You know where to find them, diba? It's,
Ay,
yeah.
nagpaparamdam na.
You, diba? But more than that, we'd like to be a part of the learning and the community
Yes.
development that we are all involved in. A healthy community is good for everyone. So thank you very much, all of you who were part of this, and let's have more of this soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Grace. To all the participants, we appreciate your feedback and maybe tell us what you want for part two. So the link is in the chat box. So kindly fill up the feedback form as soon as you can. And to all our panelists and our team for this morning, can we take a photo before we close? Okay. Ma'am Colleen, will you take the photo?
We'll take the photo.
Okay, tell us what.
Smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Give me a moment, sorry. Okay, one more. Smile. Okay, done.
Okay, thank you so much. So, if like Ma'am Grace and Ingrid mentioned that this is really a series of really educating all life stages. So please check out the EpiMetrics and the SM Facebook page for more information on the other age groups. We have something for adolescents, younger adults, and older adults as well. So we'd love for you to check that out. Once more, a big thank you to SM Prime Holdings and National Resilience Council for really supporting this endeavor. And most especially, thank you so much to our passionate panelists, Dr. Cristina Robles, Dr. Carlos-Viray, and of course, Ms. Sari. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful discussion this morning. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.